Lena, are you with us? Hello.
Hello.
What's up?
Well, I got a bit of a scare earlier today, but I'm here. My slides are working. Everything should be okay.
Do you want to try to share your screen and I'll tell you if your slides are actually working?
Yes, let's hope. Um,
What's the weather in Stockholm?
it has actually been our day of summer today, so
Woohoo!
we're possibly out of summer after this.
Don't
How
worry.
about now?
We can see a career crafting there, prepare and share by you. So, just to give a short intro of Lena, I'm pretty sure she will do it, but one of the cool things about her that I like is that she started on the wrong track being an engineer and then she moved into testing, which is the right track. But now she's moving towards to the dark side because she's an engineering manager. But I guess that she will talk a little bit about that. And I like her very much down to earth way of thinking and acting. So that's why we're happy to have you back in here. And floor is yours.
Thank you. So I am going to talk a bit about me. Well, to be honest, I'm going to talk about me for about half an hour because this talk is very, very personal and is kind of the story of my career and how I ended up where I am today and whatever wisdom I can share for you people who might feel stuck or want to do a change. So I started out as a developer, as Joel said, kind of by accident, but I stuck to it for about 11-ish years before I found what I called my passion. I found testing, or more specifically, test leadership. So the parts that I was always most interested in was how can we do this better? And then further along the line, I realized that building software is cool. Building people and building organizations is even cooler to me. So I ended up, as Joel said, in the dark side in management. When I don't do my day job, I do a lot of speaking, workshop facilitation. I am a periodic blogger. In periods, I publish blog posts almost every day, and then it could be 3 months before I have any idea to blog about. Today, I work as engineering manager at a company called Mentimeter. We do something called an interactive presentation experience that I hope a lot of you have tried out. And if you haven't, you really should. Our main goal is to make every voice heard. And on that topic, I want to share my story. So, growing up, I always thought that I could become anything. I had very supportive parents who never ever told me that any dreams were too big or unrealistic. I had the fortune of being, I have like a school smart head. So school was very, very easy. I had good grades. By chance, I chose an IT education after my regular school. And since it was 1999, as a system engineer, you had your job before graduation. It was the year before the IT crash in Sweden. So my class, almost everyone had a job before we finished. The class after, they really struggled. So I had that 1 year of experience that was so crucial. So I got a job as a developer. Found a company that worked a lot with mentoring young people. They took on a lot of like fresh graduates and they trained us. First time we had a salary review, I actually quit because I got so upset with what I felt was very unfair behavior. And we're going to get back to that later on. But my point here is that in these days, as a developer and a young woman, it was very easy to just find a new job. So I kind of slid through my early years. I thought, well, life is pretty easy. This glass ceiling thing people are talking about, it must be just people who are less competent that claim that there are obstacles being a woman. Basically, I'm not like other girls. But then I started seeing things. I mean, I have horror stories from conferences and being a young woman in situations where men drink alcohol, and we're not going to get into those. But I also, in my regular day work, I started noting people treating us differently. So at the beginning, I thought maybe I'm just not good enough. But to be honest, no, I truly was. And I tried a lot of different ways of getting out of this kind of rut that I felt I had stuck in. So I asked my manager, so maybe I can try to become an architect. But it was always never a good time for me. So someone else got that opportunity instead. So I thought, well, okay, if maybe I'm not good enough to be an architect, maybe I could be a database administrator. No, it was much better if one of the young guys got it instead. So at first I thought it was just because I wasn't good enough, but basically I was rejected every time, and I could see young men just rising past me all the time. And I started to become really confident in there's no reason for this. This is not about my capabilities. So I started to see the people that I had actually trained, the people who came in as junior, new grads, being taught by me and getting all of those opportunities that I wanted. And I mean, there's always a reason. They always have a reason for it. Well, you know, he is so appreciated by the network technicians. Or he has such an amazing skills when it comes to integrations. But my point is that they always got the opportunity to take on those assignments, while they kept me with clients because I was really good at client-facing work. So slowly I stopped trying to reach these new heights. I started telling people about my dreams because I was starting to feel like everything I tried was a failure. And I mean, if you talk about this on the internet, you will hear the quote that's on my slide here. Are you sure it's sexism? Maybe it's just you not being good enough. But for me, the thing that made me take action was when one of the people I had trained with 10 years of less experience than I did passed me pretty much in salary. He got a raise that just put him way above me. And then and there, I decided that I need to change something. I need to take action to change my career. And this is actually coincidentally when I found testing. So breaking in with life lesson 1 here, you are not imagining it. And I can almost promise you, all of those small warning signs are warning signs. They are just not they're not just in your head. And I want you to make sure that you don't ignore these small stuffs, all of those red flags. Even if it's uncomfortable to say something about it, you should, because all of those small things add up, and you're probably not the only one experiencing it. But of course, it could feel really, really hard to start. But I encourage you to start looking for those patterns. Are there patterns in how you're being treated? Or maybe there are other people who are being treated the same way. And also try to find people to confide in. So for me, female networks has been almost like the key ingredient. And I want you to not only talk in these closed forums, talk to people in general. I'm a manager now, so I mean, this goes against what's best for me, but you should talk to other people about salaries and benefits and their experiences, because the only one benefiting from you not talking about them, it's the employers. And last point here, if you see other people being discriminated, speak up. Because I believe that it's not until we start speaking up, even with those maybe jokes that are a bit bad taste, but you ignore it because you don't want to be the uncomfortable one. But unless we all start actually speaking up, we're not going to see the big changes. So, okay, I decided I wanted to change my career in some way, and I switched to testing. And I mean, I had somewhat of a successful career, but I still felt like I hit a ceiling. I got to a certain point, and then it was something was blocking me. I took a couple of more like test strategist roles, roles that were more on like a higher level. There were more responsibilities, there were more demands, but they didn't really come with the benefits that I could see other people getting. And I was still waiting for someone to give me those opportunities, because I could see other people being given opportunities. And the first time I thought about switching to management was actually one of my previous managers. The company that we were working for were going through a rough patch, and there were a lot of people being let go. And in our one-on-one, he made a joke and said, "I almost called you and offered you a manager role just to be able to keep you." And my gut reactions was, what on earth makes you think I would like to become a manager? Because in my mind, I wanted to work with the tech stuff. But it somehow got stuck in my mind, and I started thinking, what makes him think I would be a good manager, rather than what would make him feel I would want to be a manager. So I started thinking about how can I shift my career in that way. But again, I was still waiting for someone to kind of hand me a manager role on a plate. And then I met what would turn out to be one of the most important people in my career so far, Anneli Nicholson. She hired me with the words, "I want you to be my assistant. I want you to be my right hand. I want you to be the person who supports me in doing all of these amazing things I want to make." And she sent me to a 12-week communication and leadership program at a company called Dale Carnegie. And as a part of this course, you are supposed to set goals. And as I said previously, I had stopped setting goals because I was so afraid to fail. So my goals were really weak, and they were something like, I will send in an extra abstract to a conference, and something similarly vague. And I mean, those goals were met in 2 weeks. And then after 6 weeks, you have a follow-up meeting. And they asked me, so you need to set new goals. What are going to be your new goals? And I was really uncomfortable and didn't want to say anything. And Anneli changed my life there and there by doing what's probably extremely unprofessional. She kind of rolled her eyes, gave off a big sigh. Lena, stop hiding. You want to become a manager. Just say it so we can make it happen. So I was a bit taken aback and I was like, okay, is that how this works? And we left that meeting with 2 new goals. And one goal was that not only was I going to send in an abstract to a conference, I was going to be a speaker at an international conference. And I would have started as a manager within 12 months. And that's where it started, because from that moment on, she was my biggest supporter. So at our training final, when everyone stood up and made speeches, she was in the front row urging me on. And this was, I believe, late fall, and March next year, I got my first, I started my first manager role after an organizational change that I had been part of designing, which is just, to me, that was just mind-blowing that things could, as soon as we set the goal, things shifted. So life lesson 2 in this speak would be, explicit action is what gets you explicit results. So breaking down and simplifying my process was, so A, I want to become a manager. Okay, why? I want to become a manager because I want to influence business decisions more. Okay, what's stopping you? Well, on one side, I'm afraid of being not good enough. And I'm also very, very afraid of having difficult conversations and making budgets. Okay? So what can we do to get you past those fears? Well, we can learn how to do budgeting. We can train doing difficult conversations by mentoring people. And we can set a plan. And that's how, from autumn 2016 to March 2017, I made that big shift in my career. So articulating your goal is, in my mind at least, the hardest step. Because as soon as you have set this goal, you can start planning. And planning will allow you to see all the gaps. So what are you lacking to get to this goal? And once you see the goals, you can start taking actions on those gaps. And when you start making those actions, you will start changing. And when you change, you will become the person you need to be to reach that goal. And once you have this plan, this map, you can use it as kind of your guiding star. So this thing I want to do, will it help me move towards my goal? And if it doesn't help me move towards my goal, should I prioritize doing it? And another weird thing I realized was that people really want to help you, contrary to everything I had experienced before. So I mentioned the conference speaking thing, and I was like, I don't know how to start speaking at conferences. So what I did was I wrote a question on LinkedIn. I totally outed myself and say, hey, I want to start doing this thing. is there anyone in my network who can help me get started? And I got a lot of different suggestions and people offering to coach me. And I found my speaking coach, Maria Kedemo, and she helped me work through my first abstract. She helped me find conferences to send it to. And she helped by speaking well of me in different conference arenas. And through her, I also found Women in Testing. That it's a community I've been talking about in, I think, all of my talks. And the most important thing I learned in all of this is that people really want to hear what you have to say. And I know when you start out as a speaker, that's so difficult to understand, because you want to have the perfect talk that no one has spoken about before. But what people really want to hear is your story. There's no such thing as too basic. The most appreciated blog posts are the ones that are on really, really basic subjects, because when people hit a problem, they Google and they find your solution to that problem. And that's what people are longing to hear. So what I realized was that I know stuff. I know stuff that people want to listen to. And in the year after this training, I had spoken in Sweden, Copenhagen, UK, in the United States. I had traveled the world, which by the way, I hate traveling, but I love speaking. So you have to take the bad parts with the good. I have talked about things like mind mapping, recruitment, testing as a career, relationship building, ethics, how you analyze your test results. I've done a workshop about security testing, which I knew very little about when we started doing the workshop. I created a card game. I've spoken in podcasts. I've done I have a book draft. There's so many things that you realize once you start thinking about what you know. There's so much you can share. So, I mean, this is simplifying things so much, but making that first step, that first movement, is the hardest part. It's not succeeding, it's deciding what you actually want to do and breaking that down into things you can actually do. Because if you're standing as a junior developer and your goal is to become CTO, the road is just so long and wide and unknown that it could be impossible. But you can start breaking it down into smaller actions that you can actually do to transform you into the person who will get offered the CTO role. And I did this talk in Swedish for a group of female programmers learning how to program. And the day before I was doing the talk, this tweet came on Twitter, and it was just so perfect. It's from Natalie Davis, who writes, "I'm a little scared of the possibilities my future holds. When I started this journey, this was my destination. And somewhere along the line, it just became a starting point. What if I keep advancing? Am I supposed to just keep having my world expanded?" And I mean, that's exactly what happens. It's really scary to set goals, because once you meet that goal, what's going to be your next goal? So I wanted to be a speaker, and I became a speaker. I wanted to be a manager, and people helped me grow into a manager. I wanted to do a workshop with Lisa Crispin, my idol, and suddenly I did. And when doing that, I created a card deck. I've always wanted to write a book, and suddenly I had material for a book draft. I made a joke after I became a manager, and was like, so if I'm going to have to come up with an impossible goal, it's going to be singing on the stage in front of people. And suddenly I said that in the wrong room. And 2 months later, I was singing in gold sequin tights and a vest in front of my entire 500 people company. That is the scariest thing I've done, and my legs were shaking, but I did it. And the sky's the limit. When we start exploring these new horizons, they just expand and grow. And for me, embracing vulnerability has been a big key. Saying, I don't know how to do this, but if I ask for help, there's probably going to be somewhere out there who can help me. So wrapping this up, I want you to leave knowing that you are good enough. And if you're not there yet today, you are good enough to start changing and become that person. And I mentioned Anneli and Maria, and what they did was that they did not mentor me, they sponsored me. And finding that sponsor is life-changing. And you can only do it by actually letting people know what you want help with. And if you make those dreams explicit, you can become the person who can get there. So get comfortable making decisions. Decisions can be really, really scary. But the thing is, you can almost always make new decisions once you made them. And it's way, way easier to figure out 1 kilometer down the road that you went the wrong way, because then you're already in motion, so you can just turn back and take the other road. But if you stand still, you're never going to get there. And the last point, if manager is not where you want to be, but you are hesitant to put your thoughts out there, I want to encourage you and make you understand that people really, really want to hear what you have to say. And that is something that I not only believe it, but I promise you that it's true. And with that, I want to say thank you for listening, and hopefully you have some questions for me.